The original Hotline Miami asks us the question, do you like to hurt people? Does the new follow-up ask us to consider the question again, or did we get the wrong number? Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder. Today we'll be reviewing Hotline Miami 2, wrong number. Hotline Miami 2 was developed by Dennaton Games, an indie Swedish game developer who also developed Hotline Miami 1, and was released March of 2015 for PC, OS X, and the PlayStation 3, 4, and Vita. I played the game on the PC. Hotline Miami 2 is a 2D top-down action game by design. Just like the first, gameplay consists of typically clearing out areas that are separated by story events. One of the key features are animal masks, and depending on which is worn, different weapons or skills are made available during said level. I played the game on PC, so the mouse and keyboard controls can take a bit of getting used to. Being top-down, the character you play may be on the center of the screen controlled by the keyboard, and the direction he faces, attacks, or shoots is controlled by the mouse. Characters may start with weapons, but as enemies are dispatched, you can take their weapons, from pipes to boards, to assault rifles and shotguns. Though gameplay seems simple by appearance, it's an incredibly challenging game. In a sense, it's trial and error gameplay, but slowly escalates the challenge as you progress. Enemies have some variation between routes they take, but for the most part it boils down to how you can figure out a way to get through the area without dying. Death is usually instant, but the game has a nice insta-respawn feature after death, so you lose very little time in between. With this being a direct sequel, the original Hotline Miami is a must-play since the stories are directly intertwined. Also, I thought the first Hotline Miami was a great game, and I fawned all over it. Before I get into the story, it's hard to discuss these games without spoilers, so hopefully I'll be able to add an annotation to skip past the spoilers bit. Without further ado then, let's move on. The story of the sequel takes place before and after the events of Hotline Miami 1, and fills in the pieces of the cause and effect of the masked maniac killings from the first game. What happens during these events can be hard to follow since it hops between years and characters, and some aspects are left up to interpretation. In the first game, you primarily played as Jacket, who began to receive mysterious phone calls and acted on their instructions of assassination, which resulted in a near takedown of a criminal organization through a massacre and a high body count. Others, manipulated by the same strange caller, led to a high number of bystander casualties, including Jacket's girlfriend. In Hotline Miami 2, you start out playing as the Fans, a group of copycat killers acting as vigilantes continuing what Jacket had started. You will then bounce between the rest of the characters. We have Martin Brown, also known as the Pig Butcher, an actor in a film telling the based on a true story events of the first game. Detective Manny Pardo, who is a psychopathic detective that kills more so than detect. Jake is a crony for the 50 Blessings gang, who are one of the primary antagonists of the series. Evan Wright is a journalist, working to expose the hidden forces that manipulate Jacket from the first game. The henchman works for the son of the 50 Blessings leader who is killed by Jacket. The soldier of story goes back to the root of the cause that put all future plot points into effect, who also appears as a clerk in the first game and turned out to be a squad mate of Jacket's during a war. Richter, who killed Jacket's girlfriend during the first game and retells how he ended up involved with the mysterious phone calls. And last but not least, the son of the slain leader of the 50 Blessings who wants to rebuild the organization. He ends up fighting the Fans while twacked out on an experimental drug when they try to assault the gang headquarters, and leads us to the absolutely insane drug-fueled finale. As it may sound, the Hotline Miami series is pretty surreal. It uses a lot of metaphor and rhetorical questions to advance the story, while breaking the fourth wall for some self-referential philosophy. Both Hotline Miami 1 and 2 are games that should be played through twice, to better connect the dots of the story. As you have probably gathered by watching this footage, the Hotline Miami series, despite a classic retro game appearance, is incredibly violent with stylized gore. Personally, I found it pretty entertaining, but despite the obvious use for shock value, the game through its mind-bending writing also asks us, the player, if we'd like to hurt people, and it also strongly points out that violence begets violence. Hotline Miami really goes for a hardcore, electronic, retro 80s feel, so I'd assume it's not for everyone, but it'd be a shame to pass up this kind of gaming experience. experience. Like many indie games, it goes for a stylized, low-grade look, with focus on strong visuals and story. Nowadays, with advanced design and hardware to support it, what can be done with a simple interface is pretty incredible. The ingenuity of these indie developers is pretty impressive. Transitions between levels truly set up the vibe to the experience. Hell, even the pause menu is uniquely designed. Besides all the other fantastic points about this game, just like the original, the music featured in Hotline Miami 2 is astounding, and the entire soundtrack is over 3 hours long. Sticking with the retro 80s theme, the soundtrack features various real-world electronic artists. The music varies from lethargic synth to heavy bass-pounding trance. I'm not much of a music reviewer, so it's a bit harder for me to break down its qualities, but despite me being a huge metal fan, it's insanely good electronic music, and nails it on the head in what it's trying to achieve. I've tried to include a little variation of the music for the background of the review, but I'll post links in the description for some of the music. I enjoyed it that much. The music really dulls the pain of getting killed over and over again. I mean, yeah, you gotta give the level another go, but at least we get some badass music to keep us in the zone. And the gameplay's fun too. I've seen some discussion whether or not Hotline Miami 2 is as good as the first, or a good game for that matter, and I think there are merits to what's being said, but I have to disagree with the naysayers. Overall, I think the sequel pretty much delivered what I'd expected, but I do feel the original was a better game since it did it all first. Sequels usually don't live up to the originals, but it was damn close. I think the general gameplay of the first might have been a little better, but the variation, length, and story of the sequel added so much to the series. Cool, stylish graphics, fun gameplay, awesome music, and a crazy story to boot makes this a fantastic game, and it enhances the experience of the first. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being hated it, 5 being loved it, I'm going with a 4 on Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number. Thanks for checking out my review of Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number. What were your thoughts on the game? Let me know in the comments below. If you've liked what you've seen or heard, please give the video a like, a share, and subscribe to see future videos. Until next time on the Game Grinder.